Warren Buffett's first million was garbage. Let's dive right into this incredibly provocative claim. Most people think $1 million is the ultimate trophy, right? Like, it's the finish line where you finally stop worrying and just start living. But for a high IQ mind wired like Warren Buffett's, that first million wasn't the prize at all. In fact, it was basically garbage. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but it's actually rooted in some truly fascinating psychology. You see, for these deep thinkers, the ultimate financial trophy is really just the entry fee to a much deeper, far more complex intellectual game. Section 1. The Cigar Butt Strategy. Finding the last puff of profit. To understand the foundation of Buffett's wealth, we have to look at the raw, totally unglamorous reality of his early days. Because honestly, trying to do what he does now, buying massive, perfectly polished mega corporations, is the fastest way to stay poor as a beginner. That's a strategy for preserving billions, not making your first million. So the crucial move here is acting like a human lie detector for stocks. This is the classic cigar butt strategy. Think of it like shopping at a heavily discounted outlet store instead of some fancy luxury boutique. You aren't looking for the shiny, flawless item. You're looking for that slightly scuffed, out-of-season jacket sitting in the bargain bin that still fits perfectly. You're looking for a discarded cigar butt on the street that has literally just one good puff left in it. It's all about building a mental library of small, mediocre companies that are completely forgotten and unloved by the masses, but are priced so ridiculously low that you're practically guaranteed a small profit. And this brings us to the absolute core safety net of this strategy. If you're a beginner retail investor, the margin of safety is your new best friend. It means that focusing intensely on a heavily discounted price gives you a massive buffer against all the wild unpredictability of the market. For instance, say you buy a struggling local real estate company for $500,000, but they actually own physical land worth $1 million. That $500,000 gap, that is your margin of safety. You absolutely don't need to be a certified genius predicting the next 10 years of tech innovation. You just need to know that price completely beats intelligence in these early stages of wealth accumulation. If you buy that outlet store item cheap enough, it almost doesn't matter if the market dips, because your buying was practically at rock bottom. Section 2. Wealth as leftover data. The brain chemistry of success. Let's move below the surface and see how this builds into the complex psychology of deep focus. Because look, anyone can learn a strategy, but executing it for decades requires a very specific kind of brain chemistry. Think about the stark contrast between a brain chasing crowds and a brain quietly assembling a giant puzzle. Most people see $1 million and their brain launches a massive dopamine parade. We're talking fireworks, confetti, and the roaring adoration of Wall Street crowds. But a highly intelligent, deeply focused investor might look at that exact same bank account and hear nothing but cricket sounds. Seriously, just crickets. Instead of running on the quick, cheap thrill of dopamine, these minds run on acetylcholine. It's a neurotransmitter that actually rewards quiet introspection, deep focus, and the simple act of being completely alone to solve a problem. And that leads us to this fascinating idea. For a mind like Buffett's, the money literally wasn't the reward. The intellectual hunger of the process was the reward. Highly intelligent people often fall into these short bursts of deep obsession where they just master a topic with intense focus. He didn't obsess over the cash, he obsessed over the logic of the businesses. The wealth that was generated, it was simply a byproduct. That first million was literally just the leftover data from a decade of deep, obsessed learning. Kind of changes how you look at a bank statement, doesn't it? Section 3. Systems over status symbols. The power of selective organization. As a beginner, learning to navigate all this, one of the most vital systems you can build right now is a mental filter to completely ignore market hype. So let's look at how the pros do this. High IQ minds practice what psychologists call selective organization. They don't waste their precious mental energy trying to organize everything in their lives equally. No way. They understand the absolute necessity of mental efficiency. They channel their energy strictly into the work systems that actually matter, and they brutally ignore the surface-level noise that doesn't contribute to their goal. They're actively filtering out the hype to protect their mental bandwidth. Think about the huge difference between a performer wearing a mask versus a focused individual just quietly analyzing data. While other investors are out there performing for Wall Street, wearing masks and chasing these surface-level exchanges, the truly successful are busy being entirely anti-BS. Their nervous systems literally crave substance and depth over flash. And ignoring those external status symbols aids your long-term wealth building because it literally saves you from the sheer exhaustion of having to perform for an audience. Those status symbols of a millionaire, they're garbage, honestly, because they're just distractions from the complex patterns you're trying to solve. Section 4. Finding clarity in stillness. Why Omaha beats New York. To actually execute this strategy and to build these rock-solid systems, you need to understand how to design your physical environment for deep analytical thinking. Your workspace matters just as much as your strategy. This explains the legendary decision of why Buffett completely avoided the financial chaos of New York in favor of the quiet stillness of Omaha. It's called optimal arousal theory. While some people need the noise and frantic movement of a crowd to feel good, deep thinkers have a very low stimulation preference. They recharge in stillness. By staying out of the noise, he allowed his brain to naturally generate its absolute best ideas. So, how do we translate this into actionable steps for you? Well, here are 3 habits for building a personal system to maintain deep focus during your market analysis. First, control the lighting. Create an environment that instantly signals to your brain, hey, it's time to work. Second, control the noise. Eliminate the literal and metaphorical static. Seriously, turn off the financial news networks. And third, control the vibe. Make your workspace a sanctuary for pure logic. By actively controlling these 3 elements, you create a personal refuge that practically forces your brain into a deeper thinking state. This is just such a powerful truth to internalize. Silence isn't empty. It's where clarity lives. It isn't just the absence of noise. It's an active, vibrant state where true clarity lives. Prioritizing this mental clarity over the external status markers of the chaotic financial world is the absolute foundation of your success as an investor. If you can't find the silence, well, you aren't going to find that margin of safety. Section 5. The survival masterpiece, self-reliance and patience. Finally, we need to talk about the mindset required to sustain this journey over the decades. Because investing, it isn't a sprint. It is a marathon of the mind. You have to build an identity that doesn't need outside approval. True self-reliance and patience come from learning to solve complex problems without needing immediate intervention and, crucially, without broadcasting your moves to a crowd. The best investors stay totally quiet while others are shouting about their trades. They understand that some experiences, like building long-lasting legacy wealth, actually get worse when you try to perform them for an audience. So, as we wrap up this explainer, you're faced with an ultimate choice. Because remember, you aren't just trying to build a bank account here, you're trying to build a survival masterpiece. You are building a mind capable of analyzing, filtering noise, and spotting absolute value where everyone else just sees garbage. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought. Would you rather have $1 million dropped in your lap today, or possess the deeply focused, intensely rational brain that knows exactly how to build it from scratch? Think on that for a bit, and I'll see you in the next one.